Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am one of your hosts for Policy Pulse Education Edition. I am Katina Taylor, and we are here tonight. I am here tonight. My co-host Cecilia will be joining me shortly. But first and foremost, I just want to say welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's been a long day. It's been a long week, you all. But we are here nonetheless, as promised, each and every Thursday, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be here with Policy Pulse, the Education Edition. First and foremost, I want to say hit that like button, subscribe, follow our page, invite others in if they are interested in national, state specific, and local policy as it relates to early childhood education and the pre-K through 12th grade public school education system. So I want to be clear that that is what we cover. We come to you to provide an unbiased, objective outlook on policies that are happening, on court cases that are moving forward, on legislation that is being proposed and or passed. We want to present that information to you so you are informed, and we want to push you with calls to action so that you are clear on what you can do and how these changes impact your children and our families and communities throughout the KC metro area, the state of Missouri, and from a national perspective. So that's why we do Policy Pulse each and every week, to ensure that you are not relying on fake news or biased opinions and information that is presented in a way that, I'll say, serves someone else's agenda versus your own. So that is why we do this work. I am so excited to be with you all. I am tired, but we gonna make it through, y'all. We really, really are. And as I said, my co-host is Cecilia Belzer Patton, and she will be joining us shortly. So stay tuned, hang on in there, and I tell you, we are going to be getting started very shortly. Why do we do this? Of course, I've already told you, but I also want to say that policy impacts people, right? As policy happens, it impacts people. Who? You, me, your children, right? The elderly, our larger communities. I live in a particular community, and so I am quite clear that when we hold on, Cecilia. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Make sure I'm getting this right. There we go. All right, y'all. So I was just telling the folks, I just gave a welcome. I told the people who I am, and I told them why we do Policy Pulse, the Education Edition. And I just said that policy impacts people. And so we have to make sure that we present the information and present it in a way that they understand how they are impacted when policy moves forward, be it at the national level, the state level, and or the local level. So again, my brilliant, amazing, beautiful co-host has joined us, Cecilia Belzer Patton. And Cecilia, I want you to go ahead and tell the people who you are, why you do this work, and just welcome them to the broadcast tonight.
Hey, everyone. So sorry I'm late. I was dropping off a vehicle and Had to get back home. Then when I tried to pull up my computer, it acted like it wanted to shut down and start back up. It's like rebooting. And I was like, not now, not now. Come on, let's go. So I apologize. My name is Cecilia Ananya Belzer Patton. I use the she, AI series of pronouns. And I am the founder and cultural curator of Just Systems. Just Systems is a systems change organization that helps businesses, not-for-profits, educational institutions, whomever, be able to walk the walk of their talk. So it helps people with their with their internal presentation of what they would like externally in a just society. And so I do this work because at the deep root heart of me, I'm an educator. I come from a family of educators that has been a part of the conversation in my life, my entire life. I see how education can change the world if we allow it to, and if we do the things that we need to do for our students and their families. And so Katina and I both are edupreneurs. So the ways in which we're at the intersection of education and entrepreneurship, as well as policy and procedure and practice. So good to be here with everyone today. We have some things to celebrate for the young people of Kansas City public school system. So I'm sure that we'll get into that in a bit.
Absolutely. And before we do that, we just want to do a quick reminder that the views and opinions expressed during this broadcast are our own and do not reflect any organization or business that we may be affiliated with. We are here to share factual, accessible, nonpartisan information to keep our community informed and empowered. So I want you all to think critically, do your own research, engage in the conversation by dropping comments in the chat as we go. Push our thinking. If you disagree, that's okay. We do not expect everyone to agree with anything that we present. And again, we try to be as objective as we possibly can. And that is the work. So that being said, those we again giving you education news you can use because policy impacts people. So we are covering tonight the April 8th municipal elections that have occurred, not just in Kansas City proper, but Hickman Mills, Lee Summit, where else, Raytown, etc., Parkville, and I believe North Kansas City as well. So if you all think that we spend too much of our time centered in Kansas City public schools, one, historically, that has been the largest district in our area. Mm-hmm. Two, that is where we do most of our work and serve most, but it is not to the exclusion of other schools and school districts around us. So we will do a better job of ensuring that you all are informed about the things that are happening as we do our research and become more and more engaged and aware in those areas also. So again, those municipal elections are behind us. We're breaking down those results, what they really mean for not only Kansas City public schools, but the rest of the area and what's ahead for students, families, and educators. All right. You got anything to add so far, Cecilia?
No.
All right. So some of the things we are quite clear about is that we have new people. We have new initiatives. We have some statewide and national things that are impacting pre-K through 12th grade education, which ultimately then will impact adults as well, right?
Absolutely.
So let's jump on in. So you all, over the last couple of weeks, you saw 7 people vying for school seats on the board of directors for Kansas City Public Schools. And these individuals, these 4 individuals, what do you notice about them? First of all, Cecilia, what do you notice about this group of people?
The brilliance of that they're all women.
They are all women. And we have 2 newcomers and 2 incumbents. So
and they're all women of color. People don't know that Trisha McGee and Rita Cortez are Latinx. So
absolutely, yes. Yeah. So all women of color. I'm loving it. We have 2 incumbents, 2 newcomers to the seat. So our current Kansas City Public School Board president or chair is Rita Cortez. Her seat was challenged, but she came out victorious. So we congratulate her. Another incumbent, Tanisha Ford, who's an at-large member of the school board. Her seat was challenged as well, but she came out on top. So we congratulate her. And why don't you tell them about the newcomers, Cecilia?
The newcomers that we have are coming in out of 5th District. The 5th District at large is going to be Brittany Foley, who was going up against Bruce Beatty. And so she's young. She brings that energy. Trisha McGee as well. I don't remember. Trisha McGee, is she 1st District?
3. She's sub-district 3. Yes.
3rd District, also young, both very active in ways in which they do a lot of advocacy. Brittany comes directly out of participating, as she shared with us, in the SAC and the DAC with Kansas City Public Schools as a parent. Trisha has done a lot of work with Latinx Education Collaborative, of which I'm a board member. And so we're just, we're happy that we have some things, that we have some seasoned veteran board members as well as some new folks. My cats are losing their minds. Sorry, you all heard all of that.
That's okay. And I'm glad that you asked the question of like what sub-district. So for those of you that don't know, your at-large representatives, they represent the entire or full boundaries of what Kansas City Public Schools is. So when we talk about Tanisha Ford as an at-large board member, any person, no matter where you live, as long as it's within the boundaries of Kansas City Public Schools, she is here to represent you. Reach out to her, engage with her, invite her into the community, into your neighborhood, on your jobs, wherever you are. Invite her out to share updates and give information. Rita Cortez is not an at-large board member. She represents Sub-District 1. Trisha McGee, as we previously stated, represents Sub-District 3. And Brittany, the other new board member, represents Sub-District 5. Yep. So just so you know, if you don't know what sub-district you are in, it may not mirror your council district. So what you can do is you can go to Kansas City Election Board, put your information in, and it will tell you what sub-district you are in for school board. Or think back, reflect upon what appeared on your ballot that you just voted on Tuesday. Now we're just 2 days afterward. The candidates that popped up, that's an indication of what sub-district you are in. Anything that I missed, Cecilia? Did I miss anything?
Nope.
All right. Let's keep it moving. So that's the first bit of it. Now, let me see what I have next. Okay. So before we go to Missouri State stuff, let's also talk about the other school districts and what occurred there. So Lee Summit, one of our suburban school districts, had 2 candidates, Michelle Dawson and Nikki Nickens. They were on the ballot. They are the winners of that election. And I will tell you that some conservative groups endorsed the incumbent board president, Jennifer Foley, and challenger Leon Weatherby, while other groups supported Nikki and Michelle. So Michelle Dawson and Nikki Nickens, they garnered support from District Teachers Union and Lee Summit Democrats, even though this is nonpartisan. But apparently those liberal folks, those that Teachers Union, all of those folks, they had it right, and the voters spoke. And so Michelle Dawson and Nikki Nickens are the new Lee Summit board members. And then you head over to North Kansas City, and you also have 2 new winning candidates there. You have Aaron Peters, ARYN, and Daniel Wartick. Wartick is a retired public school administrator. He previously served on the board and was endorsed by the district's teachers union. And Aaron Peters, is a client engagement manager from True Home Solutions. graduated from North Kansas City Schools, and has 3 children in the district. She also has some teaching experience. So that is North Kansas City. Then we had Park Hill. They did not have any school board members, but Raytown certainly did. Jordan Jamerson and Edna. I do not want to say that last name. Can you pronounce that last name, Cecilia?
I can't pronounce her last name, but I need to see it, and I don't see it.
It is Adelusola.
Ade Solu.
Ade Solu. All right. So Edna A is what I'm gonna say because I will mess it up. Forgive me, I promise. So Jordan Jamerson is a paid media manager for Ad Mixed, and that's a local marketing agency. He previously taught math at Raytown High School, and his goals for Raytown is to improve curriculum alignment and long-term planning. Mrs. A, Edna A, is a senior manager of admissions at Great Jobs KC, a local organization here, and she wants to strengthen ties. You should know what she wants to do between schools, area businesses, and the community. So those are our school board elections. Oh, wait, we got one more, I think. Hold on, let me look at my notes. Yes, we have Hickman. I can't leave out Hickman. So Hickman also has 2 board members, Clifford Reagan III and Vanessa Claiborne.
Reagan was an incumbent, correct?
Yes. Yes. So Reagan,
interesting thing there. Reagan works on the school board. His wife works for Hickman Mills.
Oh, conflict of interest, maybe? I don't know. Well, no, because remember, school board members, their only employee is that superintendent, and the superintendent through their human resource offices then hire other folks and are responsible for the retention, the evaluation, and all of those things. The only thing I think that comes before the school board are salaries, and generally they vote on them in blocks. So maybe, I don't know. Now, if you're talking about a dismissal, maybe, I don't know. I don't know how Hickman Mills does theirs, and I don't know what she does for the district, so I can't speak to it. I'm not going to speak to it.
I'm not either. I just thought it was a good,
yes, absolutely. Yes. Reagan is a customer service representative and security officer. He says he wants to improve the district's relationship with the community. And then Mrs. Claiborne, Vanessa Claiborne, is a longtime district resident. She has served as a volunteer teacher's aide, and she wants to promote, interesting, family values, safe communities, and transparent spending. If you all may say, well, Katina, why did you go? Ooh. Well, oftentimes when we hear things like, I'm going to use something outside of education, we need to get tough on crime. Those are trigger words, right? So sometimes when you hear things within the education sphere of we want to promote family values, safe communities, and transparent spending, while these are nonpartisan races, they often are trigger words, meaning that some conservative viewpoints may enter in. I don't know if this is true with this person. I don't know this person, but I'm just saying. What you think, Cecilia? Oh, we're supposed to be objective, though.
Yes. So don't be trying to pull me into something and then you get all lawyerish after and get real buttoned up. No, ma'am.
I'll just say I don't know this person. But I do know that generally speaking, when we hear those are trigger words within the political sphere that often means conservative leaning. How about that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I feel so good. All right, I feel good.
Also, one of the things we should probably help our audience recognize too is oftentimes when school board, that is people's launch into politics.
Yes.
When they want to go beyond and go to other types of elected offices, they oftentimes start with
Absolutely.
school
You're
boards.
absolutely right. So, some of the other things that happen, you go ahead and talk about the bond, Cecilia. What's up with it?
You know, I shared with people, even as we were being objective about the bond and looking at things that needed to occur with the bond, it is not it's not a cure-all, right? It is, people are looking at past historical elements with DSEG and how things were handled and done then. One of the things I can say is I believe that we as folks should be willing to recognize that we can learn from our mistakes, that we don't have to move in the same way that folks may or may not have moved during DSEG. That was one of the things that I heard. And what I just kept saying to people is that either we were or we were not comfortable with students in Kansas City public schools only being educated at the level of the average parent's income.
Mm.
And thankfully, we were not okay with that. It's been 67 years. It's been trying to get passed, but thankfully we were not okay with that this time. Now,
And
mm-hmm.
not just Kansas City public school students. Remember, there are charter schools that benefit from this bond as well. And
Absolutely.
I just have a wondering. I wonder if maybe those nine, I think, charters that signed
9.
on.
I
I
think it
wonder
was
if
9,
that,
possibly 10
yeah,
by the
I
end.
wonder if that had an impact and brought people out in ways in
When I
which
think
they
about
wouldn't
things that will be helpful is a Southwest Junior or Southwest Middle School. When I think about the political power of certain charters that would like to reside within the Southwest corridor, of course. I think in the past that has not been a partnership that has moved forward, even though, people don't recognize that KCPS has always been a sponsor of some of the charters within its boundary areas and capture areas. And so whatever we needed to do in order to get it done, I'm glad that people did that. And that does not affect, I don't live in Kansas City proper as far as Kansas City public schools. And so I'm just very grateful that our students can begin to get more access to 21st century learning, real world learning. When I did that after I voted on Tuesday, I said real world, and I was like, what did I just say? When I look back on my live, real world learning.
it could be a
Project
tongue twister, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I know. Fast, right? When you're trying to go fast, you're just trying to get it done. STEM and STEAM. I think about when we have folks that are going to be able to help with the strategy, the tactics, and the implementation of literacy efforts and numeracy efforts, being able to see how we will be able to center student social emotional learning, we hope.
Yeah.
Trauma informed and restorative informed, being able to also do the things that we need to do with the buildings to ensure that they're in spaces that are safe, that are modern, that have access to the things that students and their families need. So I'm just really happy about this.
Yeah, and I think we need to reiterate a couple of things. So, as you said, it's been 57 years since a bond has passed. I think during that time, Kansas City Public Schools only moved forward maybe with one or two bond initiatives because they knew, and there had been so much fighting amongst constituents and board members and superintendents and all the things over the years that they never felt it was time. So the fact that Dr. Bedell started the process and Dr. Collier has continued the work, the school board was on board to ensure that community was engaged, that there was an all and out marketing, and promotion agenda or strategy in place. Kudos to them. I am interested to see how the rollout in terms of the community group that is supposed to assist with this process, how that takes shape. who will be
I would
tapped
like
to
to see.
participate?
I want to know who's going to be. I know that they have a person who is going to do oversight of how the construction happens with the new construction, with the refurbished things like that. I'm sure that they probably have an organization that will be doing oversight of equity and fairness in these things. I always wonder if they're from Kansas City. I always wonder if they know everything that
Well, there's
one needs
supposed
to
to
know
be
about.
there's supposed to be a community component to this, and to ensure transparency, effective communication, and outreach to the community so they know how it's progressing, to ensure that the finances are used appropriately, all of these things. And so it'd be interesting to see who is tapped to participate, how that process is going to take shape in terms of like, or is the district and those charter schools selecting people? Will people self-select? Will they go to the supposed leadership orgs that often represent the larger community, or people think they represent the interests and views of the larger community? I just wonder.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't have any information, but we do know that those are things that are supposed to be in place. I also want to say that the bond, there are two parts to this, right? So there's one that will directly impact your personal property taxes, but there's another portion that will not. And so I think having the combination of the two, it is massive amounts of money that we're talking about, but it's extremely important given the fact that we haven't passed a bond in 57 years. And so also, this money is supposed to be used for facilities, deferred maintenance and new construction. So please, folks, please stay clear on that and understand and know that don't go to the school board meeting or the school board members and be talking about I don't know, classroom size right now with this bond. That is not
It's not what it is. It
necessarily
is
what
not
it's
what it
about.
is. It's
And
not what it's
so,
about.
yeah, so we have to understand we're talking deferred maintenance and new construction, renovations, remodeling, all the things. And for those that consistently talk about, well, what did we do with the money in the past? We've said time and time again that DSEG money that came about, understand and know that that money was meant for new construction. There was no money in the pot for maintenance and upkeep, right? So that's Kansas City Public Schools. But there were some other bond issues in our community, in our area as well. So let me tell you about those. Let's see. Also, I want to tell you the numbers. Do you know the numbers for the bond for KCPS?
I'm pulling it up now. Oh, for the
Okay.
KCPS?
Yeah.
Oh, it was like 87% approval. Like it was
Yeah.
well beyond the
Yes.
57 because I was concerned about that 57. Now,
Yes.
what is very interesting though, when you were talking, Katina, about where was the push?
Yeah.
It's interesting to see who voted. It would be interesting to be able to see who voted.
Yes.
And to see who's engaged in this and who is to make sure that even if people were not involved and engaged in the push for the bond to be passed, that we make sure that we have folks at the table that represent what Kansas City Public Schools children look like.
Yeah. Well, we certainly are talking about this reopening of Southwest High School, so that's interesting. We know that the 9 charter schools will sign, they have signed agreements and they will be able to complete some projects they have on tap. And this, I think, is really important because more often than not, when a tax levy is moved forward, those that are at median or low income usually pay the lion's share. Yes. With this particular bond, I wish we would have did more talking points around this. But if you have a home that's valued at $200,000, you will pay an additional $231.80 per year in property tax.
Because
So I
remember,
just,
the last time that this happened, and what was that, 2020,
mm-hmm.
2018, around that, when there was coming out of Sly James' office, and that bond that they tried to pass at that time,
Oh, the early childhood.
the early childhood, it was taxing people that it was going to be benefiting,
Mm-hmm.
right? They would have paid more.
Got you. Got you. So
Prepay.
let's look at the
Let me
other.
prepay for my child care.
Lee Summit. Lee Summit also had a bond. Now I shared in a previous broadcast that they had just a few years ago passed a bond. So they came back to their voters and their voters approved a $225 million bond. They had 75% in favor, 25% opposed. They also required a little bit over 57% of the voters to pass that bond issue. Now, it was interesting that before the vote, the district said whether the bond failed or succeeded, it would not affect the tax rate for at least a decade. The way in which it's written and put together and all of that. So they are looking at replacing Hazel Grove Elementary School and Greenwood Elementary School, doing major work at a yet to be determined elementary school, and expanding Pleasant Lee or Lay Middle School and upgrading some of their high school athletic fields.
It's Pleasantly.
So,
And when we think about, most people don't realize Lee Summit has added 2, if not 3, high schools in the last 10 years through bonds, through capital bonds. And so, it's always moving a needle. Like, these are things that we just have to recognize that our districts need for us to participate in as much as possible. Even if we don't, people have said, what if you don't have children? I shouldn't have to do this. We're investing in everyone's future here.
Absolutely. North Kansas City also had a bond on their ballot. They approved a $175 million bond by a vote of about 80% in favor, 19% opposed. Again, they needed, so all these bonds need 57% or more, a little bit over 57%. The bond, theirs is also a non-tax bond as well, so the bond would not affect the tax rate. They were targeting for this particular bond in North Kansas City, performing arts spaces in 2 of their high schools and improving middle schools by adding competition gyms. So that's what North Kansas City was targeting. I do not know when the last time is that they've approved a bond. Do you, Cecilia?
North Kansas City?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Let me look that up, though.
Okay. While you're looking that up, don't forget, we're gonna come back to it because I want to also talk about Park Hill. They had a tax levy increase, 67% in favor, 33% opposed. So they had a narrow, much more narrow margin of approval, but it did. It was Proposition G on their ballot, but they only needed a simple majority to pass that particular bond. They want to increase teacher and staff salaries and benefits to make the district more competitive with their neighbors. Interestingly enough, Missouri as a whole just increased teacher salary and benefits. So Park Hill said, okay, we still want to be more competitive and pay even more. And so they are really putting their money where their mouth is. We are having a national teacher shortage, and they apparently feel that if they pay more, they're going to get probably higher qualified candidates and be able to retain them. So that's where they're looking at. That was a tax levy increase. They also had a $128 million bond issue. 62% voted in favor, 38% against. It was labeled on their ballot as Proposition O. And that one did require just a little over 57% to pass. It will raise taxes in their community, but apparently the people was okay with that, and they said they need to replace and renovate some of their aging buildings. So they are doing the first phase of replacing Park Hill High School. They're doing some additions to several elementary schools and some security improvements throughout their entire district. What'd you find on North Kansas City?
It is not saying. I'm continuing to go deeper in.
Okay. Keep going because I want to know. Also, you all going back to KCPS, I want you all to understand and know this. And I think this is where it's going to be extremely important for that community group to be involved and engaged. Is one of the talking points from the district was every single building will be touched in some way through this bond. I want that to be truth. I want our district to operate from a place of integrity. And if for some reason construction, renovations, materials, supplies, costs increase to a point where that may not be able to happen, we should know ahead of time as the community.
And Katina, like there, that sounds good. That sounds like equality. That doesn't sound like equity.
Ooh,
Equality is giving everybody. Equality is giving everyone the same thing, whereas equity is giving people what they need.
Well, they didn't say everybody get the same thing. They just said that every building would be touched.
Do some of our districts that are on the southern border of KC, or schools, excuse me, that are on the southern border of KCPS and that hug the state line, do they need anything in that school that schools like Whittier and James need?
Well, so they didn't say if they give the same amount or they do the same thing. I think that Nahel Cook, what's Dr. Kersey's school?
It's the H one as well. Not Hill Cook, it's Hartman.
Yeah, I've been in that building. And I'd say yes.
I've been in Hill Cook's building.
And tell me more. I mean, do you feel like, you know, and I'm not an electrician, I'm not an HVAC person, I'm not a heating and cool, like I ain't none of that. So, you know,
if it's not functioning as well as it's looking very, very well.
Well, you know, we do that in our homes. We can slap on a coat of paint and do some things and it may look good, but that foundation may be bad. That roof may be bad. So I'm operating from, and I love the fact that we can kind of go back and forth on this because normally we are in such alignment. But what I'm willing to do is trust that our district, that our school board members will understand what has occurred and they will operate from a place of integrity to ensure that if and when they have to come back to the community, we will know that they did the best they could with the resources that they had, and we will not challenge if they want to pass another bond in say 5 years or 10 years. So I'm operating from a place of hope and I don't know, anticipation that it is going to all go well.
Absolutely.
All right. So that was,
they will engage all community stakeholders.
Yes. Raytown did not have a bond. Hickman Mills did not have a bond, but Parkville, Kansas City, Northland, and Lee Summit. That's a significant number of school districts in our area, right? That had bond measures or tax levy questions on their ballots this go round. Very interesting.
It is.
What is that? I just wonder what that is. Like, is it just that the time?
I think that I think about this every time I drive, right? You can't go anywhere in Kansas City without construction on the roads in some space. Well, that's what happens when you have an infrastructure that hasn't been touched for 50 years, for the most part, from the federal level on down. And I think that is what's happened with our schools as well. I think some school districts have been able to keep up with the demands of what 21st century education and learning looks like. Blue Valley, maybe some of the Shawnee Mission schools, to a certain degree, Lee Summit. Um, it's been more challenging for others. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think now it's like, what do we need to do in order to help our students be competitive,
Yeah.
help them open up their learning in ways that it's just not, as the old folks say, reading, writing, arithmetic. You know, people don't recognize that KCPS has not had arts and band across the district in a very long time. And so to be able to open up these things, um, as they are not having to put a certain amount of monies from the budget prior into this redevelopment that's happening with the buildings.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We can use the dollars that should be allocated for curriculum, after school, etc. New programs that we know based on data and research tells us that our students will perform better, more, increase their academic achievement. Then, yeah, I love it. I love it. I think that we just have to remember to stay engaged. We have to ensure transparency and impact, and oversight matters now more than ever. We've done the
And
hard
we have
part.
to ensure, absolutely, this is the hard part now. You know, people always think it's the implementation of the thing. I think, and
Yeah.
we also have to ensure that it's one of the reasons why I said what I said about a school like Whittier, a school like James, um, schools like East and Northeast, as opposed to some of our buildings that have historically been serviced,
Like
even
Lincoln.
as
No,
early
I
as
don't know, because they said Lincoln falling apart.
well. And I think about too, um, it's amazing to me, having done work, consulting work in KCPS, and I shared this 2 years ago at a board meeting, that I could be in one school in elementary, same grade levels, and it looks like I'm in a completely different district than if I'm in another
Mm,
school. That's
mm,
a problem, right? And so to be
yeah.
able to do that. And so I think, even as we are thinking about the ways in which we demand oversight, we demand the things that we demand around this bond and how it's implemented, we
Mhm.
always, always, always must be centering the very most marginalized, community, that KCPS services. And so what does
Mhm.
that look like? What does it look like for all those students and their families? And how do we do the things to ensure that there is equitable ways in which that moves forward? Because one of the things I do know is that when there's a certain type of parent that knows how to advocate for their children, some
Yeah.
parents don't. There's a reason why we have an adage that says the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You know, those parents know how to be the squeaky wheel. They know how to do the things that they need to do to maneuver, to negotiate, to advocate, to make sure that they have the things that they need in their students' building. Those of us who have the wherewithal need to ensure that we do that for parents who don't have that same capacity, ability, or time.
Well, and I think we have to apply those organizations that are coming along to teach and engage with families that historically maybe have lost that skill set, or just didn't, no one invested in them to develop that skill set.
Or
So,
maybe they never had it. Yeah.
or organizations like Parent Power Lab, PLTI, Revolution, etc. And so, kudos, Black, KC. So those are
Block, all
organizations
of those, right?
that are doing that, that organizing, mobilizing work for parents. Also, Parent Plus. I can't leave out my girl Cassandra. So those are organizations that exist within our community that are approaching it from a different perspective, and we want to salute them, and say congratulations to them as they move the needle. I want to zoom out a little bit. Can we zoom out a little bit and think about, yeah, we got to talk about the state of Missouri.
Oh, child.
Several things have happened of late in education, so we want to make sure that
Did you see
you
where
all are
Deidre was
aware.
appointed a commissioner?
Say that again.
Did you see where Deidre Anderson Barbie was appointed a commissioner?
So low key, I knew that was already going to happen.
Low key, I think anybody that pays attention knew that was probably going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure, there have been ramblings and whispers and things like that. So congrats to our girl. No better person to be in Jeff City advocating on behalf of the early childhood community. Those that work in that space, the students in that space, the parents that have children occupying that space. No better person, baby. No better. I have no words except congratulations. I am thrilled. She is leveled in a way that I probably am not. She has the temperament. She has been trained well. And she know how to get fiery when she need to get fiery. So I'll say that. So congrats. So that's a good one. Now let me switch gears just a little bit. So House Bill 2 passed, but did not, dare I say, fully fund the school aid formula for Missouri. And it redirected $50 million to voucher programs. Now, we can be upset about that, or
Also,
we can get strategic and utilize that.
To voucher programs, to private schools, to parochial schools.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Just saying. That's Missouri. Now, we also have Missouri. They approved emergency rules to expand pre-K by allowing teachers to teach with an associate degree while working on their bachelor's degree. That is new. That is not previously what was happening. And so I'm excited about that, because that then says, again, we're making an investment. We're attacking the teacher shortage in the pre-K early childhood space. And I hope that means we're encouraging folks to continue their education so that they become better at what they do in servicing children.
And how long are we giving them to complete?
We need to read more.
But
I want them to complete it in a reasonable time. I don't want them drawing it out for 10 years.
I hear what you're saying. And I hear my mother's voice saying, you know what? They continue to knock down this profession. This is a profession.
Yes.
At no point, I don't care if we had which we do, a doctor shortage, no one would say, well, you know what? You want to be a doctor. You're real good with people. You only got 60 hours of college education. We're going to let you go on in there and give some doctoring to some people.
I will say this. Because I came to education.
As did I. I know what you're getting ready to say. Alternatively, as did I.
And if they have been doing professional development, if they've been mentored well, if they've been self-guided, all the things, they have experience and been performing well, I'm not going to knock that. We all get to the place we're at in different paths, right? Get us there. So I'm not going to assume, because I've seen some teachers that have master's degrees that are garbage. So a degree does not always indicate
those are two different things.
Impact and effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it depends on where, Katina. I've seen some people that have master's degrees and they're brilliant at their content, but don't build relationship with students.
Right.
I think we have to be very clear, though, when we're doing this. This just can't be, I've been working at the school. I have my associates. I'm good with kids. And yet, when I'm asking you some questions about whatever I'm asking you questions about my student, and that is challenging for you to answer, or coming from me, I'm a grammar Nazi. I have a lot of those things. You teaching my child English, composition, and I don't see that you have a mastery of the Queen's language, then I'm going to have some issues around that. And so I think that we have to, yes, be innovative Yes, open up space and also put real levers there to ensure that this is going to be what's best for our students and their families.
Well, thank God Deidre is there. She's going to help oversee that in that pre-K space, and I know she's going to be great. Oh, here's another thing. Now, this was problematic for me. Significantly problematic. GPA requirements for teacher certification in Missouri, y'all. We still talk about the state of Missouri. Was lowered.
We need to do better about Missouri and Kansas side.
Yes, we do. Was lowered to 2.5 in some areas.
That's what I'm saying.
Let me just lay back. I got to lay back in my chair.
And I say this as a person that when I look at my undergraduate transcript, I go, what was
I do not. I stick my chest out.
You can stick that chest out with that low emotional intelligence. You just now developing that. So you can talk all that noise you want to. Like
why you got to be? I wasn't digging at you. Why you got to come for me?
You was digging a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. So I look at spaces and I go, I just don't know. You know, I'm grateful though that there is a concerted effort to be thinking about these things. What I hope is that these things are not finite if they don't work.
Yes, I agree.
And if we realize, nope, we need to do some different things. Our standards need to move to where they were, that we don't have things that are so finite. That's the only thing that's scary about that, right? Yes. That can occur and then we stuck with that raggediness for the next decade or two.
Yeah, I wanted to, let me see. So it says the State Board of Education approved changes to certification requirements, including lowering the content GPA requirement for teaching certificates from 3.0, which is a B, to 2.5, which is a middle of the road average C, excluding, however, teachers that are going to teach in special ed. It says that the aim was to align with standards in other fields of study, which I'm like, what fields of study? While maintaining pedagogical GPA requirements at 3.0. So if there are classes that directly are taken and address pedagogy, then they still have to get a 3.0. If they're going to teach special ed, they still have to get a 3.0. But content specific classes, which is interesting because I'm thinking we already struggle with science teachers and math teachers and social studies teachers, etc. The standard is being lowered to 2.5.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
saying. You know, I agree.
I struggle with this. I struggle with this when I hear people that teach English say things like, "Where you at?" I hear in the back of my head my grandmother saying, "Back behind your preposition," like, and that we're teaching these things, right?
Yeah.
And so, I guess what I would like to know is, again, oversight. Where's going to be the oversight for these types of things, to be gathering data, to be having benchmarks, baselines, so we can see, is this going to be helpful for our overall goal?
Yeah. And, you know, to your point, like, I'm teachable. I can be pushed in my thinking. And so I struggle around when I think about globally, the countries that are doing well in education, they do treat it as a profession. They pay their teachers extremely well. And absolutely, the cream of the crop are the ones that are able to go into the classroom. Not
and
just
they stay in there. And they stay in the classroom.
Yeah.
They don't feel pressured in order to go to administration or to go to coaching or to go these different things in order to increase their salary. And I think those are the things that I become nervous about as we are, thinking about all the ways in which we expand and innovate
Yeah.
a part of our profession.
So continuing with Missouri, due to federal funding uncertainty, the House, Missouri House budget, they paused child care subsidy funding, which of course then impacts early childhood programs that rely on these funds, like Mark, we talked about before, or like
Mhm.
parents who are getting child care subsidies, right? So I have to work. I have a young child that is not yet kindergarten age. I've been able to utilize a child care subsidy to offset the cost because it is so expensive.
Mhm.
I'm losing that subsidy. What do I do? I don't know. I think
Mm.
about me as a young mom, single mom. I was in college, in law school at the time that my child was that age. I can't imagine not having family as part of my village, one. And then two, I know I utilized child care subsidies back then.
It's just
What?
amazing to me that, and I know that we had people that were in a bit of an uproar on April 5th, on Saturday, April 5th, across the country. I
Mhm.
still haven't heard anyone talk about next steps, though,
No.
action steps. And so, yay, let's be in an uproar. And then also, can we be thinking about what are our next steps? If we are
Yeah.
not taking care of both buckets of our life experience, our children and our elderly, which, you know, you talk about those places where education is soaring. You and I have talked about Finland before. Those
Mhm.
kids go into school at 2, all of them, no matter their economic base.
No, not in Finland. They don't. Six.
I'm
Six.
talking about pre. I know that they start kindergarten late, but they also
Oh,
have pre.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Got you. Yeah, that's yeah. I'm okay. I'm a
Yeah,
okay.
Fatima, sit down, please. Sit
All
down.
right. So,
Listen.
then
Maybe
the
said we
last
need
thing,
to.
for the state of Missouri, the State Board of Education has announced plans to establish a commission on urban education to address challenges faced by urban schools in Missouri. Details are forthcoming.
Hmm.
Now, I will say this: many of the challenges that are present for urban education, schools in urban areas in Missouri, are also present.
In rural.
Thank you. I didn't even have to say it. So
So,
help me understand why we just have an urban education, a commission on urban education. And who's going to sit on that commission? Will they be governor appointed or community appointed or election driven?
and is
Because
there
that
going to be
matters.
and they're going to be is there going to be a narrative about this?
I don't know. Like
I
some
don't
people
know
would say,
either.
oh, this is great. I have hesitancy.
I have hesitancy always if we're not going to actually look at the system. If we're only going to look at the canary as it's going in the mine, if we're not willing to look in the mine, if we want to blame the canary as opposed to blaming the mine and the system and the, what am I trying to say? The climate, the
As
terror.
you know what Murray Woodard would say this. He'd say, Is it what he say? Is it? I think he talks in terms of like a body of water, right? And if the body of water is contaminated, you know, I'm gonna mess it up. Murray, get in touch with me. I gotta get it right.
And I mean, that don't start with Murray.
Well, I've never heard it until Murray said it. So
Yes,
that's why I'm giving credit to.
And no shade to Murray, but I mean that is a part of system change. If we're not willing to look at the body in which we are all swimming around in,
there
and
it goes. Yes.
and if we are swimming around in these contaminated waters,
yes,
and think that we can blame the fish for dying, well, why are all these fish dying? We don't need to be looking at the fish. We need to be looking at the waters that the fish are in. And oftentimes, when I see and I hear that there are these commissions for urban education, what I'm clear about is folks want to start pointing the finger at folks who are being educated urban or in an urbane manner and don't want to look at the system.
Yeah.
And I'm not down for that.
Well, I don't think many people are. So what do families
absolutely people are down for that. That's the reason why you and I aren't on those types of commissions.
But we need to be.
Exactly.
We need to be. Yeah. So families, what do you need to know? You need to keep an eye on district budgets and transparency as it relates to the implementation rollout of how things will be done given the bond passage. You need to understand that there may be across the state more pre-K classrooms, but staffing is still a challenge, high quality, impactful. Public dollars are being shifted into private education. We need to be aware of that. And what does that mean? For people that can strategically avail themselves to that. And then changes to teacher requirements may affect who's teaching in classrooms. And we already know that in the state of Missouri, over 50%, I think I quoted before after talking with our representative in Desi at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the state of Missouri. There's a significant number of long-term subs in our classrooms across the state.
Atrocious amount.
Yes. I think it's over 50%. If I have to go back and look at what he shared with me. All right, so now we want to go ahead and take a look at what time. Where are we on time? We've been on for an hour and 3 minutes. Let's pause, and then next week let's pick up. Ooh, honey, I know some more stuff gonna happen in between now and next week, but we want to honor the fact that we say an hour. And so we started just a few minutes late, but we are right at the hour. So I want to say
you said that. I have a little bit of a headache, but I was gonna push through, but I'm like, ooh, my head is.
No, we want you to be well so that you can effectively engage. Not that you haven't tonight, but I mean, when you well 100%, it look different. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us for Policy Pulse, the Education Edition. Each and every week, I encourage you to like, follow, share, subscribe to our channels, view our platforms all the time, stay up to date, get engaged, get involved, take action, right? And come here so that you get objective, unbiased information that you can then utilize. But I do want to, before we head off though, Cecilia, let me do this though. Let me go back here because it was one thing I wanted to show. We're going to come back to some of these things, y'all, next week. But this is it. This is what I wanted to do. Right here. You stay informed. You attend meetings. You advocate. You build community. And this tool right here, I recently learned about it. I know these organizers and mobilizers probably already knew about it. But there's an app called 5 Calls. It's an easy way to contact your elected officials. Do that. Every day, if you have to, every time you think about it.
And do it 5 times a day.
That part, right? So that you all they represent you. They are elected. They represent you, not their
Remember
own.
how when we were talking about the school board fair audience, I'm going to our fair audience, and we talked about that the school board is the boss of the superintendent.
Yes.
We're the boss of elected officials.
Hello.
Why we act like that they're doing us a favor? We are the boss of elected officials.
And they have no job without us.
No.
You put them there. So, therefore, you get to evaluate their performance on the job. How do you do that? You show up at meetings where they are. You ask them, demand of them to come out in community and engage with you, and you vote. Because if they are not doing a good job, guess what? You get to remove them.
See ya.
It's just like that.
Just like that. Wouldn't want to be ya. See ya.
So that's it. We're going to go ahead and wrap you out for tonight. We will see you next week. Same time, same location, same channels. You know it. 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time for another edition of Policy Pulse, the education edition. We thank you for your support, your continued engagement. You guys engaged a lot around the elections, but we don't want that to be where you stop, because decisions.
I tell people all the time that the vote is the first step. It should not be the last step.
There we go.
I'm going to feed you, baby. It's the first step. It's not the last step. I look like a teacher today, don't I? Like,
you really do. You really do.
Because I normally be looking like.
Well, thank you all again. We'll see you next time. All
Bye,
right.
y'all. Have a great evening. Have a wonderful weekend.